Yes, good evening, everybody. Good evening. You know, I just want to say that I'm still excited about what happened earlier this evening, the introduction of this 2018 budget. I mean, this is the first time since 2006 that this city has seen a reduction in its taxes. You know, a lot of work, a lot of time went into preparing this budget, and we spent countless hours going over it and over it again. And Councilman Brown is not here tonight, but I got to give him a lot of credit for his due diligence. And again, I'll say this 1,000 times. Councilman Brown can find a nickel buried in your living room sofa. He's that good with these numbers, and much of the credit should go to him and his due diligence and him bringing back the information to me and bringing it to Alexis Zach's staff. We were committed to having a reduction this year, and we succeeded. So I'm very delighted. Now we have some other good news this evening. You know, the ISP DuPont property in the 6th ward, I mean in the 7th ward, in Ralph Strano's ward, it's on the other side of the turnpike. The property has finally been sold. Advanced Greek closed on the property last week, and we can now look forward to the property being fully developed. In the past, there were two potential suitors for both properties, and it created a problem in that access wasn't going to be easily given to one of the suitors. So now that Advanced Greek has purchased the property, both parcels, I think that that problem will no longer exist. I'd like to also talk about St. George Avenue. We have a groundbreaking scheduled for our redevelopment project on St. George Avenue, scheduled for the first week of May. This particular development will be 114 residential units with retail below. It's going to be a significant boost to the local economy there on St. George Avenue, an area that has been economically depressed for as long as I can remember. And again, I've been in Linden all my life. We moved from Southwood Avenue back in 1969, and the area was suffering economically then. So it's going to be a welcome development, and the design of the buildings is beautiful, and I'm confident that it's going to be a very successful project. Also mentioned earlier this evening was the Capadaglia Meridia Phase 2 project. It's scheduled groundbreaking for May 16th. And to correct my 6th ward colleague, it's going to be 176 units that are going to be built there. And if you'll notice the Meridia project, the first phase of the project, if you'll look at that project, and I don't want to, speak ill of the developer, but the products that were put on the outside of that building, I would describe them as inferior products. What we've done with regards to the second phase is that we've held Capadaglia Meridia to a higher architectural standard, and we're not going to allow the inferior products to go on the outside of the building. We have a rendering of the particular project that's in my office, and we will be posting it on the website. We'll be posting it on Facebook so that everybody can see exactly what the new building is going to look like. Far more attractive than the first building that was built under my predecessor, Mayor Gabunka, under his administration. So, another thing I'd like to report on is today I went over to Blue Apron to discuss security issues. I'm proud to announce that Blue Apron has hired our former Police Lieutenant William Mack to head up their security there. William Mack has called me and has recommended that we begin some discussions on what we can do to go about hiring Linden residents to fill the security positions at that location. The thinking is that if we hire Linden residents there, we will have because of their proximity and the location, it's a lot easier to staff these positions with Linden residents. Security is a very important part of the business there. So in upcoming days, we'll have the information. It'll be posted on the Linden website, Facebook pages, Linden TV, and it will be giving to our Linden First program so that residents will be aware of what is needed to apply. Additional news, this week we filed with the state the Trimley Point area as being designated as an opportunity zone. The state now is setting up these opportunity zones, and what they're doing, they're creating tax incentives for developers to encourage the growth and encourage development in areas that have been difficult to develop in the past. So Linden's Trimley Point has been designated as an opportunity zone. 2 weeks ago, I went to Washington on a trip that was paid for by a group called Go Rail. I went to Washington to advocate for our city for funding for what we call our short lines, and also to address some of the issues that are affecting Linden with regards to New Jersey transit. The issue here is that funding has been made available for short lines and rail systems in New Jersey, but it seems like every year the Congress has to, and the Senate has to vote on these issues over and over again, and what it does, it prohibits the rail lines from developing a long-term strategic plan. So we went down to lobby Congress and the Senate to ask them that instead of letting us go year to year, why don't they pass legislation that will give these grants, these tax incentives for 10, maybe 15 or 20 years, so that the people who run these short lines, which is incidentally going to be critical to our development of that Trimley Point area, it gives them the opportunity to do some long-term strategic planning. Later on this evening, you're going to see a community benefit agreement / resolution. It will be on the agenda. This is nothing more than a resolution that will require anybody who comes to our town who's going to be spending over $2 million, not for residential, but for industrial development or warehousing, that they will have to sit down with this governing body, they will have to sit down with the unions to discuss hiring residents who live in this town who are union members first. Now, we do realize that this is not going to be a very easy task, but we feel as though moving in this direction will at least establish some dialogue and will at least make the people who will come to develop in our town understand that we would prefer Linden residents be considered first if you're going to use, if you're going to be constructing and spending a significant amount of dollars in our town. In November, we passed a resolution, this governing body, to form a fee schedule that would allow for the hiring of, I guess, police officers who are not on duty, when they're off duty. Now, what happened was this fee schedule adversely affected the senior housing complex, and that it became a little more difficult for Ann Ferguson to be able to afford to pay for police protection. So what we're doing is we're amending the ordinance, and that it will waive the fee, well, the new fees that were put in place for senior buildings and any buildings that are housing disabled residents. So this will enable Ann Ferguson to continue to have the same type of coverage that she had in prior years for those buildings, because security is a very serious issue with our seniors, and it's something we take very seriously, and we're going to make sure that we do everything humanly possible to see to it that Ann Ferguson can continue to run her buildings in a safe and efficient manner. And last but not least, I did receive a call that the governor has declared that this is a state of emergency. So I'd like to inform all residents to please remove your vehicles off the snow emergency routes. I also received a text that all Linden schools will be closed tomorrow, which is March 21st. The city of Linden, we will possibly have a delayed opening We haven't made the decision as of yet whether we're going to be closing City Hall. It may be delayed opening, it may be closed. We're not sure. We're going to be watching very closely and monitoring the situation within the next couple of hours. If we do open, employees will not be permitted to park on the rooftop. So please avoid parking on the rooftop. And last but not least, you know, it seems like it was only yesterday, but 3 years ago, I woke up in shock and dismay. We had lost Frank Vigiano, one of a fine gentleman on our police department, and we lost another fine gentleman by the name of Joey Rodriguez. You know, these gentlemen were. He was not only a good policeman, but Joey Rodriguez and Frank Vigiano were excellent residents in our community, and they will be missed. So I just want everybody to realize that we should never forget these gentlemen and who they were and what they represented in our community. And it was a tremendous loss for us on that day. I think that concludes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mayor.